up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Shonna Missy Me, and I help students optimize their medical school application to increase their chances of being accepted into medical school. And today, guys, I'm so excited to record this video because it's been literally like almost a year since I released a YouTube video, and I apologize to my followers. I promise to make it up to you guys. But in today's video, I'm excited to talk about what it's like to be a resident physician, specifically recapping my first year as an anesthesia resident. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button so that you don't miss a video. So depending on the specialty that you decide to go into, your experience as a resident may be a little bit different, and that's why I want to share mine as an anesthesia resident, because it is very different than your specialties that mainly care for patients on the floor or in the clinic. The very first thing I want to talk about my experience as an anesthesia resident is the steep learning curve. So guys, I don't know if you've heard that term before, but once you get to medical school, it'll probably become something that you hear all the time, because the amount of material you learn and how fast you have to learn it is just, insanely increased from high school and college. So in anesthesia specifically, the reason why there's a steep learning curve is because you're being thrown into a specialty that you've never really had any other training or educational experience prior to. So my first year in residency, I completed an intern year where I only spent maybe 2 months in the OR doing specific anesthesia. The rest of that year was spent doing internal medicine and family medicine type medicine. So I really didn't know a whole lot about anesthesia going into my first year. And I think that's pretty common for most anesthesia residents. You try to do your best to get exposure to the OR and to start getting your intubation skills down and start learning some of the more common medications. But until you're in the OR every single day, using those medications, seeing the hemodynamic differences in the patient as you go from one part of the procedure to the next part of the procedure, you really don't know anesthesia until you're in that particular situation. So I believe that for anesthesia residents, it's a little different because we're not just building off of the tons of knowledge that we already had starting from medical school. It's almost like learning a new language. It's super specialized. Really no one else maybe except emergency medicine deals with the type of things that we deal with in the OR. And the reason why we have such a steep learning curve is because early on in our training, we develop a high level of independence, meaning that we are typically on our own, doing our own cases, within 3 months of training. And not necessarily on our own, because every resident for every residency program and specialty always has to have a supervising attending physician. So we are always supervised. But as far as being in the OR and doing the case, typically you're doing most of the case by yourself. Being able to manage the patient alone is super important in anesthesia, and you have to learn how to do that pretty quickly. So our level of independence is very different from other specialties where you are continuously working with your attending all day long. You're rounding with your attending on each and every patient, and for the most part, every order that you put in, every treatment that you come up with, it is approved by the attending prior to ordering that imaging or giving a certain medication to a patient. Where in anesthesia, if we have a heart rate or a blood pressure or a respiratory issue, we don't call our attending and say, hey, can we treat the blood pressure? We go ahead and we just treat the blood pressure because we know that that's what we're supposed to do. So our level of independence is very different from most residents that are just starting out in their specialty as well. Another thing that is very specific to anesthesia as a resident is skill development. We learn how to do procedures very early on, and most people don't know that anesthesia is a very hands-on specialty. But some of the things that we have to be skilled in is, number one, the airway. We are the go-to when there's a difficult airway, when someone is unable to ventilate, intubate, all those things. So we get very familiar with the different tools and gadgets and things that are available for us to facilitate intubating a patient. And we, again, learned that very early on, because your very first patient may be a difficult intubation, and before you know it, you're using a fiber optic to intubate that patient. Another thing that we do is IV access. So in addition to regular IVs, we also have to be efficient in placing arterial lines and central lines and swan catheters. Again, this is a skill that not every resident is able to gain or become efficient in, depending on their specialty. So I think that's very specific to anesthesia. Most residents have like a certain number of central lines or A lines that they have to get in order to graduate, but they don't have to be the best at it, and we have to be very, very good. So we get that really on. Another procedure that most people don't know what anesthesia does is something called neuraxial, which is the umbrella term for things like epidurals and spinals. So this is another procedure that we get early exposure to, and we get good at it very early in our training. And then the last procedure category that we get early exposure to and receive a lot of training is regional anesthesia, which includes all of our nerve blocks. And we also get very, very good with ultrasound. So the fourth thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is the pace of the OR. Now, honestly, I knew that I wanted to be in a fast-paced environment, which is one of the reasons why I chose anesthesia in the first place. But until you're in it, you don't really understand or appreciate just how fast-paced it is. And it's an adjustment. It takes a little time for you to be able to do a case, turn over, pre-op a patient, do the next case, turn over, pre-op a patient, do the next case, to like get into their routine and keep up with everybody, because you're gonna be thrown in there with surgeons who have been doing surgeries for 15, 20 years, nursing staff that's been, managing the OR for years, and they have their routine down, and you're like that one person that's like, where do I get this? Where do I get that? And so the pace of the environment is like super fast. You have to adjust quickly, but once you get it, it becomes routine, and you're able to do all the things you need to do in a timely manner. And number 5 on my list today is adjusting to a different type of study style. So in medical school, you have classes that you attend every single day, or lectures and simulation, all types of things that you do every single day. So if for the most part, most medical students study every single day with, maybe take a weekend off or a day off or something like that. But there's something there to kind of keep you disciplined and on track, because you have an exam coming up in a week or two, things like that. But in residency, you don't have an exam coming up in a week or two. You may take 1 or 2 exams within a year. So there's nothing really in place to keep you disciplined and on track with your studying. In addition to spending so much time in the hospital, you have to really buckle down and be determined and be disciplined to set a study schedule for yourself. Your program director may mention, hey, you guys studying, you do your practice questions, but there's no set structure or way or particular timing of when you should start studying for boards or when you shouldn't. Every residency program has didactics, which is our classroom education for residency. Depending on what program you're in and what institution you attend, the setup for didactics is slightly different. So for us, we have weekly didactics. Some people have daily didactics. Some have monthly didactics. So depending on your program, you may have to prepare something educational every single day, which helps kind of keep you on track with your studying. But you may be one of those residents that attends a program that has monthly didactics, and you go 3 weeks without doing anything educational, and then you cram everything in during that week of didactics. So it really just depends. So for me, it was a huge adjustment. I had to find time and create a study schedule to make sure I was prepared for my boards. And finally, overall, after experiencing my first year as an anesthesia resident, I know that I made the absolute best decision that I ever could have made to go into anesthesia. Outside of being a residency and the stress that comes along with being a resident, I'm super happy with the field. I believe that I'm going to be very happy in my career going forward. Like I said, I love the pace of the OR. I love the people that I'm able to work with and how we work together as a team. I love the level of patient care and interaction that I get from anesthesia. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry for the delay in videos, but I have a lot of things lined up for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below, DM me on Instagram, but the best way to contact me is through email. So you guys stay tuned for more videos. Hope this was helpful. You guys have a great day.